All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're framing you as the hero on a quest to conquer the ultimate boss, financial independence. What we're looking at here is essentially a crash course in personal finance, entirely based on the strategies from the Money Guy show. Look, if you've ever felt like managing your money is this overwhelming, chaotic journey with absolutely no map to guide you, I promise you, you are not alone. But just like any epic hero's journey, you really just need the right tools, some strict rules, and a clear path to follow so you don't end up wasting your precious time or resources. To actually succeed on this journey, we need a roadmap. So here's our agenda. 1. The wealth-building ingredients. 2. Phase 1, the foundation. 3. Phase 2, accelerating your wealth. 4. Phase 3, financial independence. And finally, number 5, the rules for the road. Let's get into it. Starting things off with Section 1, the wealth-building ingredients. This is all about building your baseline. Okay, before we get into any of the complex financial steps, we have to talk about what actually creates wealth out of thin air. Listen, even if you think you are absolutely awful with money, simply combining discipline and margin over a long period of time allows your dollars to work so much harder than your back, your brain, or your hands ever could. First up, you need discipline. It's simple. If you can't live on less than you make, you're never even going to start this journey. Now, that discipline, that creates our second ingredient, which is margin. Margin is just the extra money you generate to put to work. And finally, the most valuable ingredient of the whole shebang is time. If you can harness compounding growth early on, time literally does the heavy lifting for you. So, I want you to take an immediate, totally actionable step using these ingredients. I'm challenging you to put just 5% of your very next paycheck directly into a high-yield savings account. Seriously, don't overthink it. Whatever amount hits your checking account, multiply it by 0.05 and move it over. Let's put that into perspective for a second. If you're a median earner in the US, making roughly $64,000 a year, that 5%? It's just $225 a month. If you can manage to do this 3 pay cycles in a row, you prove to yourself that you have exactly what it takes to build wealth. You're stretching that discipline muscle, and you're creating your very first real margin.
Moving right along to Section 2, Phase 1, the foundation, also known as the order of operations.
Think back to elementary school math for a minute. Remember how if you didn't follow the proper order of operations, you always got the wrong answer? Well, money works the exact same way. These first 4 steps are your absolute bedrock. Step 1, you've got to secure your highest insurance deductible in cash. This is to prevent you from making desperate decisions if things go sideways. Step 2, grab that employer match. It is literally free money, and we're often talking about a 50 to 100% return on day 1. Step 3, relentlessly attack any high-interest, toxic debt. And Step 4, build a fully funded 3 to 6 month emergency reserve. Doing all this keeps you out of the 72% of Americans who are completely unprepared for a sudden financial crisis.
You know, compound interest is a fascinating double-edged sword. You really have to ask yourself right now, are you a builder or are you a consumer? Think about it. If you have $100 of margin and you invest it at an 8% return for 5 years, it becomes over $7,300. You're building. But if you're stuck in Step 3, paying that same $100 a month toward an average credit card balance of $6,700 at 23% interest, well, after 5 years, you're actually going to owe over $10,000. You didn't even swipe the card once in those 5 years, but compound interest worked fiercely against you.
Now, when you're staring down that high-interest debt in Step 3, you really must know thyself. You can choose the analytical avalanche method, which tackles the highest interest rate first to minimize your overall cost. Or you can go with the psychological snowball method, attacking the smallest balance first to get those quick, feel-good wins and build behavioral momentum. Honestly, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. Just make something happen and get that toxic debt off your balance sheet.
All right, Section 3, Phase 2, accelerating your wealth. This is where it gets fun.
Now that your foundation is rock solid, it is time to play offense. Step 5 unleashes incredibly powerful tools like the Health Savings Account, or HSA. This thing gives you a triple tax advantage. You get a tax deduction right now, the growth is tax deferred, and withdrawals for medical expenses are completely tax-free. It's huge. Then you've got the Roth IRA, where for 2026, the contribution limit is $7,500. Money in a Roth grows tax-free forever. Once those buckets are filled, Step 6 loops you back around to max out the massive thresholds of your employer-sponsored 401k or 403b plans. This is where you really start sheltering large sums of money.
Which brings us to Section 4, Phase 3, Financial Independence, where you start designing your life. This phase is a massive mental shift. You transition from just protecting yourself to actually designing your ultimate life. You shift into step 7, which is hyperaccumulation. Here, you're figuring out exactly how to structure your investments if you plan to retire early. Next up is step 8, prepaid future expenses. This is the really fun part, funding your abundance goals, like your kids' college, maybe a nicer car, or a big home renovation. And finally, step 9, paying off low-interest debt to completely de-risk your life. You really only do this when you've basically won the game and you just want to remove all remaining obligations.
So what is the crucial takeaway for step 7? It's hitting a 25% savings rate. Now you might be wondering, why exactly 25%? Well, the data shows that this specific rate perfectly bridges the gap for anyone who maybe didn't start investing until they hit their 30s. If you can save a solid quarter of your gross income, you can still easily replace your pre-retirement income and retire comfortably, right on time.
And finally, Section 5, our rules for the road to keep you staying on track.
To keep you safe on this long quest, you need some strict guardrails for major life purchases. Let's talk about cars, for example. With the average new car today costing over $49,000, which, by the way, is more than the median single income in the US, the 23-8 rule is basically there to keep your wallet honest with your ego. Here's how it works. Put 20% down, finance it for no more than 3 years, and make sure that monthly payment stays under 8% of your gross income. Period.
Now, what about the biggest purchase you'll probably ever make? Your home. For this, you want to follow the 35-25 rule. It's actually surprisingly flexible for your very first home purchase. You can put down as little as 3%, as long as you plan to stay there for at least 5 to 7 years. But here's the incredibly strict part. Your total housing costs must never, ever exceed 25% of your gross income. Doing this ensures you don't end up house rich and life poor.
When it comes to education, you want to avoid the tragic trap where 24% of adults literally feel like they'll never pay off their student loans. The fix here is the first-year financing rule. Simply cap your total student borrowing at whatever your expected first-year salary will be in your chosen profession. It sets a natural ceiling. Now, what about investing during scary, volatile, or frothy markets? Simple. A, B, B. Always be buying. Automate your investments so you aren't trying to time the global economy with your fleeting emotions.
This next concept is genuinely fascinating. Your financial math actually shifts as you age, especially your threshold for holding on to low-interest debt. When you're in your 20s, it's generally okay to hold student loans if the interest rate is under 6%, because your invested dollars can easily work harder than that over time. But look what happens. In your 30s, that threshold drops to 5%, and by your 40s, it's down to 4%. The golden rule here, your money must always be working harder for you than the interest you're paying to someone else.
And I want to leave you with the ultimate mantra for your financial balance sheet. Using credit cards for their rewards, the buyer protection, and just general convenience, that is perfectly fine, A-OK. But carrying credit card debt month over month? Absolutely no way. You reap the rewards, but you never ever carry a balance.
The true beauty of this roadmap is that your relatively simple life right now will eventually get wonderfully, beautifully complex with all the wealth you're going to create. But the choice to take that very first step, to save that initial 5% and embark on this epic quest, is entirely yours. So I have to ask, are you ready to become the hero of your own financial journey?